The coronavirus outbreak has and will continue to affect everyone on this planet in one way or another. Now, I know that I have subscribers all over the world, and some of you may be impacted in far greater ways than others, but no doubt about it, everyone on this planet is going to be impacted by the virus in some way. News outlets today are quick to tell us how we should live during this pandemic, but I haven't seen or heard too much from Christians giving advice to how we as believers should live in the midst of everything that's going on. I'll be giving what I believe are 3 critically important truths in this video, so please make sure you catch all 3 because I honestly believe that each is of the utmost importance for Christians today. So meme team, you guys ready? Then let's go! First, let's start by considering how we should think about the impact that this virus has on us personally as believers. Now, a lot of Christians are familiar with the passage in the Bible that says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," which is found in Philippians 4:13. However, most of us don't typically understand the context and the point of the passage and why a verse like this is so relevant in this situation today. The context here is that Paul is thanking those who's given him what he's needed in his time of need. And if we start just 2 verses earlier, Paul says, "I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through him who gives me strength." Now, this passage does not mean, as many use it out of context today, that you can do anything you like get the job that you desire, simply because Christ gives you strength. Instead, Paul's point is that he learned to be content no matter what circumstances he will encounter in life, whether he's poor or rich, hungry or well-fed, lacking things or not, sick or healthy. In every situation, Paul learns to be content because of the promise of Christ. Now, just as Paul learned to grow content in all situations, we as believers ought to do the same thing as well. Now, Christ never promised us a life without trials or tribulation, or even promised us that we wouldn't be harmed in this life. Instead, he assured us that we can expect trials and tribulations. But as believers, we should face things differently than those who don't share our hope. We know the promises that's been shown to us through the truth of the gospel. We believe in a God that knows suffering firsthand because he came into this world and also suffered himself. We know that God cares for us and he loves us. So therefore, we can be content and trusting in Christ no matter what the situation we find ourselves in. Now, I know that you may be watching this and you might have restrictions placed on you that frustrate you, or your income or retirement took a significant hit, or maybe you're suffering from the virus right now as we speak, or maybe a loved one has been affected by it. Now, I know that that's hard, and I'm genuinely sad for those of you that's been impacted by it in these kind of ways. I'd like to encourage you by saying, just like Paul, we as believers can grow content no matter what the situation is. And because of the promise of Christ, you can handle it. Now, with that said, it's also important that we know how to treat others during this time. We can look at how the early Christians handled a plague that swept over the Roman Empire in AD 251. Now, I'm not trying to say that the coronavirus is just like the plague, but I do think that we can get some important insights from the early Christians who encountered those who suffered from the plague. Now, a little after this, in 260 AD, Dionysius wrote a letter to the believers who put their lives on the line in order to help protect people during this time. When others fled during the plague, a lot of Christians would stay and help and minister to the people who were suffering. He wrote, "Most of our brothers and sisters showed unbounded love and loyalty, never sparing themselves and thinking only of one another. Needless of danger, they took charge of the sick, attending to their every need and ministering to them in Christ, and with them departed life serenely happy. The best of our brothers lost their lives in this manner. The result of great piety and strong faith seems in every way the equal of martyrdom." So here we had Christians who were willing to pay the ultimate price with their lives simply to save the lives of others, because they knew that this life was not all that there is. We all have a death sentence hanging over us, and those of us who are Christians from the Christian view, death isn't the end, but just the beginning of something far, far greater that will never end. We should all be content with that personal cost. As Christians, we also know that we're here to love and serve others as well. And when we love others, we want to do what's best for them. So if we're sick, we can love our neighbor by staying away from them so that way we don't get them sick. Even if your body can handle the virus and it won't hurt you, that doesn't mean that it can't hurt or kill others. So if you're sick, one thing you can do is to love your neighbor by keeping them at a distance and try to find other ways that you can love and help and serve them. Another thing that you can do is not hoard things for yourself. Throughout the Old and New Testaments in the Bible, it's filled with commands to care for the weak and the marginalized. If people are in need and you're able, give them what they need freely. Don't hoard a ton of resources just for yourself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Help those who are in need and be good stewards of all of the things and the money that God has blessed and entrusted you with in this life. See this as an opportunity to show the world the self-sacrificial love that Christ has shown all of us. He didn't do this because we could do anything for him in return. We couldn't. He did this because he loved us enough to put us before his personal comfort and security. Now, my prayer is that we not only learn to be content in all circumstances and situations, but also that we'll be willing to demonstrate radical love in helping those in need at the sake of our own personal comfort levels. I'm not saying that you should go and put your life in jeopardy, but I want to challenge all of my fellow Christians today to think about what you can do to help some of the people that are in need during this time. And I also hope that as we trust in the promise of Christ, that we will be brave enough to put the needs and comfort of others ahead of our own. So next time that we start to lose sight of this, what are you going to say? What do you mean?